We had a pretty large bang associated with the caution warning now. Okay, as we have an apparent serious oxygen leak.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we've had a problem. He's in a roll and he can't stop it. Performing an evasive maneuver. Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here. I think we need to do a little more all-weather testing.
Welcome to space.
Hello, listener, and welcome to Failure to Launch, the space history podcast where we take you through all the mistakes, failures, and explosions that made modern space exploration possible. We are your hosts, Quinn, he, him.
Chris, he, him.
Oh, Matt, he, him. I had one job and I messed it up.
It happens every time. Don't worry. And an enthused Chris, he, him.
And today, we're talking about Soyuz-23, the first time the Soviets landed a spacecraft in the water, and how they nearly froze the crew to death. Now, as you have heard, we have got a guest. Matt Lowne is a YouTuber covering all things space, current news, engineering, space history, and crucially, Kerbal Space Program. I personally have been a big fan of his KSP videos for years, and I'm sure more than a few of our listeners have seen them too. So, Matt, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Very fun to be here. Yeah, you say space news and all that. I'd say it's probably predominantly KSP these days, but I have dabbled in space and space history every now and then, so hopefully I can add something to the conversation.
Absolutely.
I'll bring charisma to the podcast, if nothing else.
I've mentioned it before that that's always kind of what we aim for. Nothing against the pure podcast guests that we have on, but it's always nice to have on someone who can A, riff, and B, knows the space stuff. Because
are you saying that most podcasters don't riff?
No, I'm saying that they're all riff and no technical expertise.
All riff and no substance describes me perfectly.
So, guys, what do you know about spacecraft landing methods?
They have to be gentle or else.
Yeah, the contents will be harmed if they are not gentle.
Don't jumble the contents. The contents are important.
And they're typically not supposed to be interchangeable between we can land on water or land. It's typically tailored for one or the other.
Quinn, do you have feet or do you have gas bags?
Whoa. You're completely forgetting the option of retro rockets, which is what the Soyuz uses and just blasts.
You need to slow down with the retro rockets.
The Soyuz method, listener, imagine going on a trampoline but with hand grenades strapped to your feet. That's kind of the deal the Soyuz has going on.
So as I'm coming down, my legs are blown off in a fit of joy.
And I kind of feel like that leading question would have been better if I hadn't immediately introduced the episode by talking about how we're going to be covering a Soyuz that landed in the water and how it went horribly.
There was solid water above it.
Technically speaking. It landed on solid matter very, very, very briefly. But yeah, listener, what we are going to be talking about today is, let's say, a historical example of why different spacecraft are designed to land on different mediums. That is that American spacecraft, aside from the shuttle, are almost always designed, I think, aside from the spaceplane varieties, I think it's fair to say they're all meant for water landing. So that being Dragon, Apollo, Mercury, Gemini, all that fun stuff. Whereas the Soviet Union and Russia use the Soyuz and they land on the ground. And I guess the Tianzhou lands on the ground as well.
And Starliner, if we're being fair.
Yes, yeah.
And New Shepard.
Well, I'm not counting suborbital stuff.
Oh.
Well, if we can add it to the list, the point being that predominantly
then we're adding the Honda Hopper too.
Yeah, and okay, well, we've overcomplicated things already. The point being that
and
mostly
the X-15.
Yeah.
Good call.
Let's keep derailing things.
I already made a caveat for the space planes. Basically, American orbital manned spacecraft, brackets government operated, brackets not the square brackets not the shuttle, have historically landed on water, whereas Soviet ones have historically landed on the ground. The Soyuz, the longest running manned spacecraft in human history, is explicitly designed to only land on hard ground, to the point where it even has soft landing rockets to gently put the cosmonauts down on the ground. Although, to talk to any of them, it's a lot rougher than that. And in complete fairness, the Soviets had done testing with the Soyuz in the water, as in they had plonked a boilerplate model in the ocean a couple of times and just made sure that it floated. That was kind of the extent to any preparation for water landings.
Rocket is fine.
Also, this was done exclusively during the day and in good conditions. So just putting it like a little Lego model in the bathtub and just is good.
I mean, Soviet Russia, as we know, is a very temperate country anyway. So why would they need to test for more harsh weather conditions?
Why can't we put the entire space program in Sochi? So this mission, however, Soyuz-23, it came down at night, far from recovery teams, into a freezing lake, and then it sank. This is going to be a fun one. I have been excited about this one for a long time. For context, I have like an Excel sheet that is full of all of the topics I can think of with like color-coded of how excited I am for ones and like, whether people die or not, or which ones are going to make the audience happy, funny, or like are they going to laugh at, or it's going to make them angry.
What's going to make the audience funny? Verb.
Yeah. Fuck you.
Just had to sprinkle that one on top.
Yeah. As for this episode's sources, I mostly relied on the book Soyuz, A Universal Spacecraft by Rex Hall, as well as the work of space journalist and historian Anatoly Zak on his website Russian Space Web. I've also used a couple of articles from Space Facts, Astronautics, and Astronomy magazine. As always, all links will be down below in the show notes.
Diamonds in orbit.
Ooh.
Yeah, because we always have to give a hefty amount of historical context, which the listeners all love, don't you, listener? They said yes.
You can't have your dessert if you don't eat your meat.
In the car, in the office, on the bus, they just said yes audibly. Thank you, listener.
They just got activated.
Listener, just the one, is it? Just the one.
Yeah. So, as we get into this, I wanted to start with a quick primer on the Soviet space program post-moon program. Or post the shift in focus from the moon to space stations, since it's not really accurate to say they went to stations after canceling the moon program. There was a bit of overlap. Also, there was that whole time that mission got cooed by Glushko and all the fun politics. Salyut 1, the world's first space station, was launched a year and a half before the final N1 Mega Booster test. But still, through the early 70s, there was a major shift within the OKBs, NIIs, TSKBs, whatever, that made up the Soviet space effort. As far as the Kremlin was concerned, they had lost the moon race, and there was no point in pursuing further manned lunar exploration. What wasn't needed would be cancelled, like the N1 booster and the LK lunar lander, while what could be salvaged would be repurposed for the new focus on space stations. But like with their lunar program, the Soviets also started two rival space station projects, one military and one civilian. Because of state secrecy, though, they would all fly under the name of the civilian project, OKB-1's Salyut stations. But of the 7 Salyuts that flew, 3 of them were made by another OKB, and they were operated strictly as orbital outposts of the Soviet armed forces. Codenamed Almaz or Diamond, these 3 stations were designed and built by show favorite chief designer Vladimir Chelomey and his OKB-52. And yeah, cannot stress enough how much we love OKB-52 here. They're always the permanent underdog. They're vizier maxing. They're doing all the dirty politics. Meanwhile, OKB-1 is just kind of steamrolling them. And this is definitely an example of that, because OKB-52 gets completely fucked over.
Then it gets rolled into another one, as is tradition.
I think I mentioned it, I can't remember on Blue Sky or on an episode, but this trend of a fighter jet manufacturer getting annexed by OKB-52 and turned into a space factory, and then like a decade down the line, OKB-51 liberates them, and then they become they either get eaten by OKB-1 or they become pseudo-independent. the OKB politics or NPOs or TSKs or whatever, it's a feeding frenzy. They are constantly getting hostile, like, acquisitioned by each other. Mm-hmm. Which, in fairness, I guess was going on with, like, American aircraft manufacturers through the 50s through 80s, of just, like, eat someone and then take their name. We've talked about this a bit in previous episodes, but the general impression is that the Almaz stations were just Salutes operated by the military, when they were really entirely separate designs. And Almaz actually came first. See, in 1963, the US Air Force announced the MOL, or Manned Orbiting Lab Program, to great fanfare. This is not a secret program. They announced this shit like they want to get in on the Apollo hype, and they're like, we're also doing space stations. We're also doing space stuff.
I too am space.
Exactly, yeah. Which was also a fun way for the Air Force to try and get back into space, considering that NASA had been formed explicitly to kick the various branches of the US military out of space.
Well, that didn't work out.
No.
They made a whole new one.
I think before MOL, they also had the Dinosaur, which was this weird kind of like blocky looking space plane design. The US Air Force never really gives up on space.
The Dinosaur does look pretty friggin' neat.
Oh, it does. Absolutely. And it would have been mounted on top of a Titan.
It also does kind of look like, the Virgin Galactic space plane? Just a bit.
It looks like the Virgin Galactic space plane if you made it with like...
vector graphics?
Exactly, yeah. It is significantly blockier.
Just clarifying for those of us who only have ears. That's dinosaur, like dynamic.
Yes, Dyna, and then soar, like soaring like a bird, but it's just called the Dinosaur.
It's so stupid, isn't it? I love it. Another really cool Air Force project is the Lunex. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that one.
Oh, yeah.
No.
It's like a space plane that lands on the moon.
Okay, no, this is the coolest thing.
Dumb spacecraft names are like there's the Roton. People love making like weird pun spacecraft names. Personally, if I were in charge of a weapons and or space program, I would not name my hyper advanced project after a, extinct species. But like, oh well. And like I said, after Dinosaur came MOL. Basically, these were modified Gemini capsules turned into space stations that could host military reconnaissance equipment and crews. So this is like, spy satellites are already a thing at this point, mostly operated by the CIA. But the plan is to just put you can go on deployment to low Earth orbit and you will be up there for, 6 months, a year, and your job is to take pictures of Russia.
Okay. Still
Before this, they had to tie men to balloons and float them over Russia instead.
I know we've talked multiple times about how the first photograph of the far side of the moon was taken with captured CIA film, and I'm now choosing to believe that the Soviets captured the guy too and put him in the Luna probe.
No, he just screwed up and dropped his camera by accident.
And while MOL was never that serious a program and was cancelled in 1969, in the best traditions of the Cold War, its threat allowed Vladimir Chalamet to lobby the Kremlin for approval to build and launch his own military stations, which is what
Quinn,
actually wanted to do.
It's not a threat. It's a promise.
That's got to be like the funniest part of the Cold War space stuff for me is like...
That's a sentence, isn't it? That's got to be the funniest part of the Cold War.
Barrel of laughs all around.
Everyone's having a good time.
I could absolutely see a Soviet OKB and an American like division of NASA collaborating of like, all right, well, like if you make your stations, then I get to make my stations, and then you'll get your funding because I'm making my stations. And just like being able to play off of each other of like, as long as your program doesn't get canceled, my program can go ahead. Unfortunately, OKB politics happened. Chalamet had long been associated with Premier Nikita Khrushchev, and in late 1960s, after Brezhnev took charge, that wasn't a popular association to have. Through 1968, various committees of Chalamet's enemies put out critical reports on the Almaz, attacking its design, its purpose, program delays, anything they could find. His hairline.
Why does it have a ball? Who puts balls?
Yeah.
The ball?
I'm not wanting to go along with the bit. I'm just thinking like the Almaz didn't have a ball though. I don't think it did.
Oh, we're looking at a slide. I've just noticed.
I'm not looking at my script. I'm just kind of hopping around, but I do have a picture of the Almaz in there.
Yeah, you do. I was just thinking of not the Almaz.
The Soyuz?
Yeah.
Or the fuck's there an onion on top?
Why is there a
Making
sphere?
me hungry.
Who incorporates spheres into designs? We make cylinders here.
All right, calm down, Stockton.
Yeah.
Is it too soon? I don't know.
No,
No.
no, that's free game.
So
Stockton Rush, the inventor of the collapsible cylinder.
Yeah, he got too angry.
Look at how storable it is.
He got too angry and threw the controller. That's what
Oh
happened.
god, yeah, just watching the hairline fracture in the glass after Stockton Rush had a gamer moment. So
Jesus Christ.
So basically, in 1968, Chelmy is like persona non grata because he has associated himself with the old guy who got cooed. Then, in 1969, Apollo 11 conclusively ended the moon race, and suddenly TSK-BEM, which was previously OKB-1, Chelmy's main rival, started shopping around for a new project. Quote from space journalist Anatoly Zak. TSK-BEM people aimed to cannibalize the hardware developed by Chelmy's collective for the troubled Almaz program and build their own station outfitted with the recycled systems from the Soyuz spacecraft. So basically, OKB-1 under mission at this point, actually it wasn't even under mission, we talked about this in another episode, this was done by a rogue collective of engineers within OKB-1 behind mission's back. Because he didn't want to do space stations, they went to the Kremlin and said, we can build a station really quickly. All we need to do is steal a bunch of Soyuzes from that guy and steal that guy's space station. And they got approved.
Yeah, you just need to commit some thieving.
Purely because, and the Kremlin was okay with stealing Almaz hardware purely because they hated Chelmy so much. This is the most like...
I have a proposal for you.
Yes.
I would like to make a new podcast called Failure to Launch. I have this script that I found on your desk.
You could probably get it done pretty quick too, because you could. There's
it's already all the work's done already.
You could even recycle a host.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be ready in time for the holidays.
So from there, the Almaz program proceeded basically as second fiddle to Salyut. The first station, officially Salyut 2, launched in April 1973, and despite a design life of 2 years, it lasted less than 2 months. About a week after its Proton rocket actually successfully flew this time and deposited it in orbit, the third stage of that Proton, that was also deposited in orbit slightly behind it, it exploded. Because, for whatever, I guess they'd loaded it up to the brim, so that third stage that was floating near the Salyut had a ton of unspent hypergolic fuel in it that detonated.
A+.
This created a cloud of space debris in the exact same orbit as the station and chasing it, roughly at the speed of a bullet. A week after that, the station was holed by a whole bunch of different pieces of this debris cloud, which knocked out its solar panels and put the station, completely out of control. It re-entered the atmosphere and burned up in late May. So, we love on this show talking about Proton failures and how it has a significantly higher failure rate than any other Soviet booster, and now we've discovered that it can kill you even after it puts you in orbit.
Yeah, it has the mandate of hell.
There is no place that you are safe from a Proton rocket, listener.
Not in bed, not in your closet, not in your house. It
not
will find
Not
you.
in space, not on the moon.
It will land on you. Or not, I guess.
It's
As
not
it's
probably more fame to do is
If
not.
it's aiming at you, it will probably miss. You are more likely to be collateraled than anything.
It's ironic considering how rock solid the R7 is. And then they also had this one.
Which, I know I've said that we're huge fans of OKB-52 and Vladimir Chelmy, but he also invented the Proton, so
Here's my stupid failson rocket.
Yeah, and it's incredible because the R7, the Proton was just significantly more powerful, so they had to use it, because they couldn't use the R7 for so many, the R7 couldn't launch a station. So the second Almaz station, Salyut 3, so another thing, we talked about, is all of these stations are being given the formal names. They're being publicly called Salyuts, even though they are operated by the military and they are designed by a completely different OKB. And there's kind of a funny part where, even though the launches aren't publicized, just in case there's any spies in Baikonur, the Kremlin forces OKB-52 to write Salyut on the side of their station in really big letters. And in a moment of incredible pettiness, there is a part of the station that is part of the aero shroud, basically, that gets disposed of, and they insist on writing Salyut on that part so that it's not on their station when it's in orbit. Of just fine, I guess we'll put it right there. You happy? We're not wearing that the whole time, Mom.
You're putting on the shirt for the family photo and then
Exactly.
ripping it off.
My serious military Almaz station wearing the ugly Salyut sweater one time for photos.
Wearing the Salyut get-along sweater.
Which was originally an Almaz sweater that Salyut stole.
Yes.
So, the second Almaz station, Soyuz-23, was launched in June 1970 and hosted one mission, Soyuz-14, for 2 whole weeks. Soyuz-15 ended early when it failed to dock and they just went home, after which a third planned mission to the station was cancelled. There's also fun accusations where the only way that cosmonauts can get to these Almaz stations is through Soyuz spacecraft, which are designed and launched by OKB-1, which is a rival to the Almaz program. So a bunch of times, OKB-1 is just like, yeah, sorry, we're out of Soyuzes. I guess you'll have to cancel your mission, idiot. I'm just like, oh, sorry, yeah, we had one planned, but then we lit it on fire instead.
Oh, that is chief pettiness. That is...
And we're into the Glushko era by then, and that is so Glushko.
I love your description of Soyuz-15 being they couldn't dock, so they decided to go home.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, guys, pack it in.
You've knocked on the door, you stood outside for 5 minutes, and all right.
So we will actually get to that. That happens an alarming amount with Salyut stations, because especially early on, they only have one docking port, and they never train the cosmonauts on how to do a manual docking.
Oh, just let the rocket do it? Not rocket up, the computer.
There's also a couple of horrifying times where they manage to get like a mechanical dock, but they don't get the electrical connection. So like, we talked about this with Soyuz-10, the first attempt to get to Salyut 1, where they get a mechanical dock, but they don't get the electrical connection, and they need the electrical connection to tell the station to let go of them. So their method was to just jam on the RCS thrusters and rip their docking probe out, and hope that everything went good.
Potential failure modes, we ripped it off.
It's gone.
What do you mean? It's gone. It's gone.
There's a very real possibility, or there was a very real possibility that like prior to Salyut, whenever they were trying to do docking between like Soyuzes, that you could just wind up with 2 Soyuz spacecraft locked together and they would have to try and do re-entry stuck together.
Oh.
I mean, they would disconnect as soon as the orbital modules got ejected, but it would still be like a nightmare.
Hell no.
Anyway, the station that we are going to be talking about today, the third Almaz, was Salyut 5, launched in June 1976. And if it sounds weird that 3 of the first 5 Salyuts were all Almazes, that's because OKB-1 had 2 failed Salyut stations in a row.
Ooh.
The first, DOS-2, it just fell victim to a classic proton failure, never reached orbit, and it crashed in the Pacific.
Okay, that's not them, though.
If anything, that's OKB-52's fault. That's revenge. Maybe that's why. Maybe Chelmy just has, like, the big proton fail button wired up in his office.
No, just he has someone on the floor that's going to flick a cigarette into a turbo pump.
Or install a gyroscope upside down.
It'll fit with a hammer and enough force.
See, this is why whenever you're, like, putting a processor in a motherboard, that's why they have that little corner cut off, so you can't do that.
But don't worry, he'll teach you how to ignore the little corner.
I feel like the stakes are slightly lower, aren't they, when it comes to installing a CPU versus the thing that stops a rocket from flipping upside down.
Yes.
I'm assuming that people listening to this know about what you were referencing when you said installing a gyroscope upside down.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we've talked about that, but listener, if
the video
you
has been posted many times.
Go on YouTube, type in protons spinning out, yeah.
Yeah, it's because I think it was in like 2013. It was a relatively recent launch. They had accidentally installed the gyroscopes upside down, so as soon as the rocket lifted off and assumed its own kind of like control over itself, it decided that it was flying upside down and needed to turn 180 degrees toot sweet.
It ripped it.
It immediately slammed into the ground.
And obviously, the protons don't have flight termination systems, so it flew for a very long time before it sort of like ripped itself to pieces. Like there's no self-destruct system.
Yeah, it ripped a donut and then itself.
In fairness, it self-terminates about 10% of the time.
Yeah. Well, they felt they didn't need to because the proton is a pinnacle of reliability.
So the other OKB-1 attempt, DOS-3, reached orbit, but then it had a malfunction where it burned all of its RCS fuel at once and then lost control immediately. Unfortunately for the Soviets, it would take a week to burn up, more than enough time for the West to notice a large space station-shaped satellite spinning wildly out of control in orbit. Unable to deny it fully, the Soviets just slapped a Cosmos number on it, Cosmos 557, and insisted that actually no, it's supposed to be doing that.
That's what North Korea did with Cholima 1, wasn't it? They launched a satellite and announced it was perfect, and then it's like, however, it was spinning out of control, and very obviously they had no control over it, and they still just insisted that it was fine.
We were testing our ADCS system to destruction. That's why I love Cosmos, is like, yeah, the Soviets do this constantly of, if a satellite messes up, they just call it a Cosmos and insist, no, it is doing exactly what it was planned to do. It's also worth mentioning at this point that every single one of these early stations, every Almaz or Salyut up to Salyut 6 had only one docking port. These were, after all, the first generation of satellites, and that meant that they weren't really what we would call long duration today. No one's staying up there for a year. Stations could not be refueled or restocked by cargo craft, and every manned mission had to carry enough supplies to last them the entire stay. Although amusingly, there were some Soviet plans of like, well, what if we took a Salyut? We left one cosmonaut inside. We undocked the Soyuz. We had a Progress come in. The cosmonaut unloads the Progress really, really, really quickly. The Progress undocks, and then the Soyuz comes back, and thankfully they never tried that, because that would be a nightmare.
Yeah, you don't say.
Not to mention, I don't think the initial Progress craft were very good at docking, because the Soyuz craft were not very good at docking. The singular docking port also meant that a failure to dock with the station effectively ended the mission. This happened to Soyuz 10, Soyuz 15, and our mission, Soyuz-23. If they can't get lined up, if they can't dock properly, they only have one option, so they just go home.
Just go home. It's just like...
Yep. Well... Imagine that. Imagine how awful it must be to have like trained all of your life to go to space. You get up there and it's just like, well, we tried knocking on the door. I guess we forgot the door combo. So yeah, come on home, guys. Just come on home.
No one's answering the door. Just leave.
Hello, listener, and welcome to the mid-reel ad. If you enjoy Failure to Launch, more bad space history, and you want to hear more of it more often, there is an option, the FTL Patreon. Signing up at any tier gets you access to monthly bonus episodes and Q&As, and joining an elevated tier gets you even more content, like Chris-narrated minisodes. If that sounds good, you can sign up at www.patreon.com/failure to launch. And now, back to the episode.
The flight of Soyuz-23.
Now, Soyuz-23 lifted off from Baikonur Cosmodrome on October 14th, 1976. And it was to be the third mission to Salyut 5. The first mission, Salyut-23, had not gone well, and we will definitely be doing an episode on it in the future. What happened is a bit of a mystery, but the mission ended about 2 weeks early after cosmonaut Vitaly Zholobov came down with a mysterious illness. He reported headaches, nausea, and vomiting, while his crewmate, Valery Bykovsky, who we have talked about, said the entire station smelled like burning plastic.
Not a good look.
This has been speculated to be a hypergolic fuel leak, although that is also debated. Soyuz-22 went up to finish their work on the station and perform some scientific Earth observations, and this one only lasted 1 week. That mission is also interesting because they were flying a Soyuz that had been earmarked as a backup for the Apollo-Soyuz mission a year earlier, and was then heavily modified into a sort of one-off, unique scientific Soyuz. The 7K-MF6. You don't need to remember it. This is like literally the only time this spacecraft variant is ever flown, and it's up there for a week.
Nice.
And uniquely for visitors to Salyut 5, it had solar panels. Wow. That's going to become very important in just a second. See, Soyuz-23 was flying the 7K-T variant of the Soyuz, the second generation of the design. For context, Roscosmos is currently on Generation 7. There's a bunch of like little spin-off designs, like unique stuff like we talked about, but the general trend is 7K-OK, 7KT, T, TM, TMA, TMA-M, and now we have the Soyuz MS. It's complicated. They're all Soyuzes. Now the main drive for the upgrade to 7KT was the disaster on Soyuz 11. We covered this in an earlier series, but basically the three-man crew of Georgy Dobrovolsky, Viktor Patsayev, and Vladislav Volkov died of asphyxiation when their capsule depressurized just before re-entry. They remain the only humans to ever die in space. While there were many contributing causes to the depressurization, the biggest cause of the crew's deaths is that they were not wearing pressure suits. The descent module of early Soyuzes was so cramped that it would be impossible to fit 3 cosmonauts, all of them wearing spacesuits. So the cosmonauts rode into space in their flight suits only, which did nothing to protect them from a leak. They were just riding basically in their PJs.
Or at least they were comfy.
I mean, it was still incredibly cramped. It's kind of a wonder now that people are, like, that you can fit 3 people in IVA suits into a modern Soyuz, and they're also...
Have you guys ever seen a Soyuz seat in real life?
I have, yeah.
They are absolutely tiny.
You're crammed in there.
And there's 3 of you, yeah. I know in, like, the very early ones, the crew actually had to go on, like, diets to lose weight in order to fit inside their seats.
And... not to mention, early cosmonauts were picked like Soviet tankers. They were picked for being tiny. Honestly, maybe the American program could have done with that, because I remember a quote, I can't remember who from, I think it may have been Gus Grissom, of saying, the Mercury spacecraft is not something you get into so much as put on.
And Gus Grissom was kind of a small guy, wasn't he?
I think he was, yeah. So for him to be saying that... Astronauts are much bigger these days. Jeremy Hansen, best boy. So...
Jeff Bezos, he's quite tall, isn't he?
He's not an astronaut.
Katy Perry, how tall is she?
We need to bring back the shame of spaceflight participant. Like, all of the Axios missions now, or whatever, they're all giving them like, no, this isn't a spaceflight participant. You get a special little rank just for you. It's like, no, fuck off. You're a spaceflight participant, and that is the rank that says don't touch anything. You are cargo and you are in the way.
Keep your hands folded at all times, or I will smack you with the pokey
yeah,
stick.
We're just gonna leave you in the Soyuz seat. We'll feed you every now and then.
Just push a block towards you of food.
So, in the wake of the disaster of Soyuz-11, the decision was made to cut the crew of the Soyuz down to 2 cosmonauts so that they could wear pressure suits. What we call nowadays IVA suits, or intravehicular activity. These are bare-bones spacesuits that are just meant to hold an atmosphere and protect the crew during launch and re-entry. These are not full-on going on a spacewalk spacesuits. The other main change to the 7KT was the complete elimination of solar panels. Because this is the 70s, baby. The moon's old news. Korolev's dead and Glushko's in charge now. In this vision of the Soviet space program, the entire focus of manned exploration would be space stations, and the only thing a Soyuz would ever be used for was ferrying cosmonauts to and from that space station. And because a Soyuz could be expected to dock with a Salyut station within a few hours of launch, it only needed a few hours of battery life.
I see nothing wrong with this.
No.
Please continue.
Especially at this point, this is something that is made, this is a change that is made after they know how bad the docking system is.
What's this podcast called again? Successful launch, right?
Yeah. So they do give it a bit of a safety buffer. A Soyuz 7KT had 48 hours of total battery life after launch. Actually, no, not after launch. As soon as this thing leaves the ground, the clock is ticking. Once it docked with a station, the Salyut would use its panels to charge the Soyuz for the trip back to Earth. Which, even then, considering how long it can take to rendezvous with a station, that is cutting it very close. Also, technically, this mission that we're going to be talking about was using the Almaz-specific 7KT-A9 variant, since the military stations, not everything was compatible. They had slightly different docking stuff. The crew was Commander Vyacheslav Zudov. I don't know why I keep wanting to say it Zubov. And flight engineer Valery Rozhdestvensky.
Sorry, you got that right, but not Zudov.
Well, okay, so the thing was that I was looking up the pronunciations earlier, and I was getting mixed up because it's Zudov, it ends with a V, but in all the pronunciations it's off. It's Zudov. And I was focusing so hard on the off that my brain was like, Zubov.
And then you just nailed Rozhdestvensky.
We're creating new guys every single day.
With Rozhdestvensky, it's at least easier because all you have to do is take the how I would normally pronounce it and add like Diezvensky. Just add a little like E sound in there. Anyway, both were Air Force veterans inducted into the Cosmonaut Corps in 1965 as part of Air Force Group 3. And on Soyuz-23, both of them were complete rookies. And they were the lucky ones. Air Force Group 3 is kind of like the cursed founding of the Cosmonaut Corps. It was done mainly to provide crews for the N1L3 moon landings, And when that program fell apart, most of those guys lost their jobs immediately. Very, very few of the 22 men in that group actually got the chance to fly.
RFU.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that around the same time, the USAF picked astronauts for the MOL program, which also failed, and then most of those astronauts got fired. A lot of people aren't really aware of this, but space travelers are often picked and trained for specific programs. Their skills are not universal or transferable, so when programs fold, they often take the astronauts or cosmonauts with them. It's like how nowadays, almost all of the astronauts or cosmonauts around are being trained for ISS stays. That is their job. You would not pick a modern astronaut to fly to the moon, say, without heavy retraining. Anyway, Soyuz-23 made it to orbit successfully and began the process of rendezvous with Salyut 5. Soviet docking procedures at the time heavily relied on the IGLA automatic rendezvous system, a radio tracking and autopilot that guided the spacecraft to their targets with minimal crew involvement. And because of this automation, most Soviet cosmonauts were not trained in performing manual rendezvous. They were trained only for manual docking in the final moments, should the automatic system fail, and again, only at the last instant. If they're further than a meter from the station, these crews do not know what to do.
So close yet so far.
Exactly. Soyuz-23 did not get within a meter. It got within 100, which is way too far for these guys to deal with. And then the IGLA malfunctioned. It detected a significant sideways movement in the station that wasn't there, and in order to correct it, it jammed the RCS thrusters open and started, winging the Soyuz hard to the side.
Huh.
They're lining up to dock, and then suddenly you just get, hammered into the right side of your seat. Because I don't know, a bit flip happens, and IGLA believes that the station is now going 0.2C, and it needs to follow.
What the hell?
Zudov and Rozhdestvensky deactivated the IGLA and tried to manually get their Soyuz under control, but between the spin and their genuine lack of training, also these guys are, again, complete rookies. Getting the spacecraft stabilized burned so much fuel that they didn't have enough left to dock.
So they went home.
Basically, they're right there.
Episode.
With the IGLA on the fritz and a completely green crew, Mission Control in Crimea made the decision to pull the plug and ordered Soyuz-23 home. The entire mission fell apart in a few short minutes, and they had been in space for less than 2 days.
Aw.
However, as we discussed, there is something very important about being in space for 2 days on this very specific spacecraft, because they only had 48 hours of battery on the thing, and they did not get the chance to dock and recharge their batteries.
Uh-oh.
Also, they missed their daily landing window. So they're going to have to wait another 24 hours before they can get home.
Womp womp.
That sucks.
They turned off everything in the Soyuz except the life support, which they cranked down to its absolute minimum. This included the radios that they would need to keep in contact with Earth. Also the radios that would be the only way that Earth could update them on any changes that might impact their return home. Changes like a massive blizzard rolling over the Kazakh steppe with heavy winds and zero visibility.
Hypothetically.
Speaking
just as an example,
I know we name tropical storms, we name hurricanes. I wish that we named blizzards so that for these episodes specifically, I could say that steppe blizzard Boris came in and completely fucked this crew over.
In the UK, we've named some blizzards in the past. We had something called the Beast. Okay. We had the Beast from the East. That was one we had a few years ago. That rules. There's stupid names like that. I think we named our first storm because
2 centimeters of snow on the ground.
I know you Americans name your hurricanes after like names, right? Like hurricane,
right?
Yeah. I think we called our first one Abigail because it's a big gale.
Hold on, that rules.
I don't even know if that's true, but I remember that was the first one I heard the news actually naming, and apparently it was because it was a big gale.
Hey, the Midwest has suffered a number of derechos in the recent years.
Is that how you pronounce them? We had one in Ottawa not long ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're gonna call it. We'll call the next one Blowy McBlowface.
I could never take seriously something that did devastating damage to my city, but also sounds like Dorito.
Landing.
So for this one, I do actually want to point you to a specific slide, and that is slide 12, because you can see where the normal landing area of a Soyuz is. This map doesn't show the lake we're talking about, but for context, it lands up by Astana,
Oh, that's significantly
which is
off.
about 400 kilometers away.
Which makes it all the more
Normally-
unlucky, really. It was so small, it's not even on this map.
Like, what if, basically, although I do think it should be on that map because it is not that tiny of a lake. Like, it's a pretty big lake. It's about half the size of the other lake over to the right.
I would say, like,
Balkash.
the black dots that are denoting kind of the places, like Oral and places,
Yeah.
it's about the size of that black dot on the map. And it's kind of the same shape, I guess, as well.
Oh man, like imagine if you went off course and you just landed in Astana, like right in like the market district or something. You got to have some nice food.
Just don't land on a building.
You would become a local legend for generations.
Then again, considering the story of Yuri Gagarin, like imagine if the farmer had just shot him.
Imagine if they just like ate him.
They weren't savages.
Oh no.
Yeah, no. There's a great story. I got it from one of Mary Roach's books, and it was basically it was the story of a Soyuz landing. It would have been Roscosmos because she was talking to an American astronaut, and it was basically they land, they get pulled out of the Soyuz, and the landing had lit a fire that burned off the parachutes, and only after a couple of minutes does she realize that the recovery crew is just a couple of local farmers, and she understands Russian. They're speaking Russian with the commander, and one of the dudes is like, what kind of boat is this? Where did you guys come from? And the commander is like, no, this is a spaceship. We were up in space. And the local responded with Nuladna, which is Russian for like, yeah, cool, whatever.
Sweet.
It's like, hey, good for you, bud.
Telling his wife, get the gun, he's gone insane.
Yeah,
You were in space? Sure you were.
Now, normally, Soyuz spacecraft target a landing in central Kazakhstan, a few hundred kilometers east of Baikonur. It's big, empty, and mostly flat, which is nice because a lot of the area around that is covered in mountains or lakes the size of seas. Even then, it's not uncommon for spacecraft to drift a bit during re-entry and wind up a few dozen miles this way or that. There's a safety factor built in. Critically, though, all Soyuz spacecraft land on solid ground. The entire spacecraft is designed with parachuting onto the ground in mind. It even has little retro rockets on the bottom that fire just as the capsule touches down.
Yay.
There has never been, to the date of recording, a deliberate attempt to land a Soyuz in the water. And cosmonauts back then only got the barest contingency training in case it happened. Like, here's your water landing emergency kit. It just has some water wings in it.
Yeah, here are your floaties. Good luck.
And in complete fairness, it was needed. They had better training for bear attacks than they did water landings. Partially because of the monster storm covering the landing area, and partially because they had so little fuel left to maneuver with, Soyuz-23 landed about 350 kilometers due north of where it was supposed to, touching down in the freezing cold Lake Tengiz. Also because of the poor visibility, the first sign that they got that something had gone wrong was when they heard a splash instead of the boom of the retro rockets.
Huh.
That has got to be a terrifying moment.
What's this supposed to sound like?
I mean, what are the odds, though? I mean, fair enough if it was like the Caspian Sea, kind of a big one. This is like a tiny, tiny lake. It's like 2 feet deep or something.
It's like hitting someone's swimming pool.
Yes.
I'm just imagining looking over in the sea like, Valeri, did you hear that?
Being the first ever astronaut to die in a swimming pool by accident on re-entry.
I'm choosing to
low
imagine
bar.
that because they were both green, they were just like, maybe that's what the retro rockets sound like. The capsule hit and punched through the layer of ice. The main parachute failed to separate, and then making matters worse, a mechanical failure caused the reserve parachute to deploy as well. Salt corrosion had activated, there's pyrotechnic charges for the reserve chute, and they had gone off. Both parachutes, now waterlogged, acted like an anchor, dragging the capsule down and basically pulling it most of the way under the surface.
Oh.
I am a parachute engineer. I have worked with space parachutes. I have seen this happen. It's real. There is no point where a parachute stops being dangerous.
Talking about parachutes like it's a wild animal.
Honestly, it is.
Timmy, get away from that parachute.
I remember seeing, I think it was the Mengzhou, the new Chinese manned spacecraft. They did a test launch of it, like a suborbital flight. And I remember seeing a picture of a dude standing on the parachute while they were doing recovery, and I was just screaming to myself, like, get off the canopy! Because if the wind picks that thing up, it's going to, like, take you with it, or it's going to wrap around your arm and, like, rip it off. Parachutes are freaky scary. And yes, parachute engineer, space parachute engineer, I am heavily biased.
Yeah, you're a parachute engineer, so you're basically like you're like
savant.
No, brain, please.
You're the parachute whisperer.
You're like the parachute whisperer. You're like a wildlife expert.
I can comment.
God, is this like a British thing, or does this thing happen to Americans as well in school? We had like, I remember in school they'd bring in like this parachute, and they would like
with the parachute,
yeah, and then we'd all sit in it.
Oh yes,
it's just me screaming.
Don't worry, that one was domesticated.
That's right. Is that how you picked your career? It's just the trauma of when you were 4 years old.
Yeah, and ever since then, I could comment though, just quiet, sweet nylon.
Were they real parachutes, or was it like a fake parachute? I've never really thought about this memory until now.
I'm willing to bet you could jump with it because it would have had the hole in the middle. I'm sure it was like just nylon because that's what I'm sure it would be the wrong kind of nylon, but someone could jump with it. Someone would be stupid enough to jump with it. I'm also scared of round parachutes. No way to control them. They frighten me.
They're unpredictable. They're wild.
Every engineer has the weirdest phobias from their careers. Now, while it didn't fully go under, the parachutes did drag the floating Soyuz capsule onto its side, submerging the escape hatch. Outside, the weather was sleeting snow. The temperature was minus 22 degrees Celsius or minus 7 degrees Fahrenheit, and visibility was 0. With no option but to wait for recovery and temperatures inside the Soyuz plunging, both cosmonauts worked to get out of their spacesuits. As a reminder, these were not real spacewalker type suits, and they weren't built to keep a person warm. They were just pressure vessels.
Ooh.
And if the cosmonauts kept wearing them, they would freeze. Unfortunately, getting changed in a cramped Soyuz capsule is incredibly difficult, to the point where they had to help each other out, and it took them an hour and a half.
An hour and a half just to
get your PJs on, just to get your flight suit in.
Fucking struggle right there.
Oh, you gotta fill the time somehow, haven't you? Right?
Yeah. Then, with nothing else to do but wait, they cranked the capsule's heater down to stretch the life support battery. They only had a couple of hours of battery, and they opened the pressure equalization valve, which was thankfully above the waterline. This is something that we've talked about before. This is actually the valve that accidentally sprung loose in Soyuz-11 that allowed the capsule to depressurize. This is entirely just about pressure equalization. It is not meant to be a breathing hole. It is not big enough to supply 2 people with oxygen, although I guess it kind of like trickled in a little bit.
Because the capsule does have a breathing hole. What happened to that?
I have not looked that up. That may be a post this happening improvement.
Oh no, I think that's what I was alluding to. I did like some research before coming on here.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure I read that the fresh air hole was part of the things that were underwater, including the radio antennas, so no one could even contact them.
Well, they were, at a certain point, they were able to get contact, but we'll get to that. It took a little while, and it was not good contact because they were loopy.
I love putting air in my air hole.
I
don't know. I'm partial to nitrogen myself. I breathe so much nitrogen. I barely breathe any oxygen at all. So, like, I'm not convinced that it really does anything.
Slowly just...
What, you're telling me that 20% of the stuff I'm breathing is the stuff that keeps me alive? Get real. Grow up.
Oh yeah, I guess you're inhaling nitrogen, but
yeah.
Quinn, you only use 2% of your brain too.
I'm just moving that stuff. My body's not doing anything with it. It's empty calories, really.
Imagine unlocking your ultimate potential, Quinn, if you took out the nitrogen and used all of your brain power.
What if we breathed liquid oxygen? That would be so much more convenient.
Could drink the stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, we work with it in space. You can find the stuff around pretty easily. Just crack a valve.
Just crack a valve. Don't worry.
It's like a
keg.
Put
it in a thermos. Yeah. Like hitting the end of it with a hammer, and it just cracks off, spilling liquid oxygen. So even then, they only had a few hours of oxygen. Again, this valve is not meant to actually keep you alive and breathing. It's just meant to make sure that your ears don't pop and that the hatch opens properly.
Oh, so the hatch was going to open fine then, was it?
Yeah, well, it was underwater, but and probably freezing. Meanwhile, the capsule's light beacon was supposed to guide rescuers to their position, but the blizzard and thickening fog had reduced visibility to near zero. The beacon could not be seen from the air.
Damn.
And here I've got a quote from Astronomy magazine. Quote, Soviet recovery forces risked their own lives by flying straight into the storm to try and locate the craft. One helicopter managed to spot the cosmonauts' capsule in the water, but the wild weather prevented them from holding their position long enough to lower rescuers and attach a recovery line to the spacecraft. Attempts to reach the cosmonauts by boat also failed. After exhausting their resources with little progress to show, the rescue was put on hold until the next day. Some assumed the men were either dead or would die before morning, given the extreme cold and limited oxygen supplies. And as their exhaled carbon dioxide continued to build up in the cabin, Zudov and Rostyazvensky sounded increasingly strained and confused in communications as they continued to approach the point of blacking out. So at certain points, they do get radio contact with these guys, and these guys are delirious with CO2, just inhalation.
Yeah, they're breathing the gas that makes you stupider.
Yeah. And again, I do not want to make this sound like the recovery crews just gave up. Again, that quote mentions they flew helicopters into the fog at basically treetop height. The capsule was not near the shore. They were pretty much right in the middle of the lake. There's different sources. It's either 2 kilometers or 5 kilometers deep into the lake. The crews airlifted amphibious vehicles nearby, like BMPs. I don't know what kind of vehicle they had, basically just like a BTR, and then it got stuck in the swamps. Like, they tried to get these guys out. And all through this, the cosmonauts kept in contact and tried to cycle the Soyuz's systems to keep them alive till morning. They had a chemical oxygen generator for emergencies, but they still needed to stretch it out. Its designers had only meant for it to be used for like an hour tops. They were in the capsule for 11 hours. A few hours before dawn, Rostyazvensky reported that Zudov had lost consciousness. Come morning, the weather situation had improved slightly, enough that a helicopter was able to drop a diver into the freezing water near the capsule. After several attempts, the diver managed to hook a line on the Soyuz, and the helicopter, unable to lift the spacecraft and both of its waterlogged parachutes, it just dragged it through the water. Very, very slowly.
Assuming just clunking into ice along the way.
Oh, absolutely. Both cosmonauts describe this as being absolute hell, not made better by the fact that they were all delirious and hallucinating.
God's trying to take them.
Like, and the helicopter is not pulling it evenly. It's pulling it in kind of like jerks and stops. So it's stopping, it's moving forward, it's hitting ice. A couple of times it dives underwater completely. Ooh. And the pressure equalization valve starts spewing freezing water onto them.
It'll wake you up at least.
This was not a quick and easy process. The hookup happened 9 hours after landing, and it would be another 2 hours before they reached land and were able to crack the hatch. Different sources have different ideas on the cosmonauts' situations when the Soyuz was finally opened. Some say they were conscious, some unconscious. A NASA report on CO2 safety in spacecraft called them, quote, alive but incapacitated due to high CO2 levels, which I think is a fair middle ground. So, after 2 days in space and 11 hours floating in Lake Tengiz, Zudov and Rostyazvensky were pulled from their capsule, cold, weak, but alive. Hooray!
They lived.
There's a reason why people call this the Soviet Apollo 13. Although I guess you could also call Salyut 7 the Soviet. There's been a whole bunch of Soviet Apollo 13s.
Apollo 13-2.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, realistically, Soyuz 5 with Valery Bykovsky. Sorry, not Valery Bykovsky. The guy with the broken teeth that we talked about.
I see him. I see his face.
I was mixing up Valery Bykovsky. The guy I'm thinking of is Boris Volinov, because Boris Volinov, he was on Soyuz 5, and his spacecraft wound up going in nose first because the service module of the Soyuz didn't detach. So it detached the orbital module, and then it went in hatch first. And he's describing like watching the reentry heat make bubbles out of the rubber seals around the hatch, just thinking like, all right, any second now, that hatch is going to blow and I'm going to be vaporized instantly. And then whenever he landed, the parachute failed, so he cracked all of his teeth. Fun guy.
That's rough as hell.
Yeah, so listener, that's where I made a mistake. Soyuz-23 the one where they had to cancel it early because of the sickness of Zholobov, that did not have Valery Bykovsky on it. It had Boris Volinov, the teeth guy.
The teeth guy.
He had a couple of flights into space. None of them were normal.
He's also the last surviving. He's the last surviving member of the original Cosmonauts as well.
Oh, you mean Valery Bykovsky?
No, Boris Volinov.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm not great with Russian pronunciation.
Now, the story of Soyuz-23 is a story of cascading failures. A docking system malfunction, an unplanned deorbit, a blizzard, a frozen lake, a parachute that wouldn't separate, another parachute that wouldn't separate, a rescue delayed by impassable weather, and a night spent suffocating in the dark. Yet, I think it is also a story of human endurance. Vyacheslav Zudov and Valery Rozhdestvensky survived not because of any single piece of technology, but because of their training, their discipline, and their refusal to panic.
Oh, so not their friendship, huh?
No. Yeah.
Hey, they showed their friendship when they took them an hour and a half to change clothes.
If they had the, like, Valery, Zudov was the one who lost consciousness first, so if they had the, like, come on, Vyacheslav, we have to make it through, it would be the funniest thing on the planet because they are both delirious from CO2. So, come on, we gotta fucking get out of here.
I'm not letting the great secretary in the sky take you just yet.
They didn't get it with friendship because friendship is helping each other with the poop bag.
Yes. No greater friends than Gemini 7. But one of my absolute favorite space quotes of, "Here, Frank, I'm busy. Just help me with this poop bag. I'm working on something, Frank."
Sorry, anyone watching whilst eating something.
Yeah, you might want to put that down now.
Yeah.
I never understood that. That doesn't really happen to me because it's like I'm eating something that's good. I'm not eating poop, you know? Like,
I mean, chocolate ice cream is nice, but
yeah, but like, what if you were? You don't know our listeners. You don't know what our listeners eat.
I would hope that our listeners don't eat poop.
Not to mention on the commute, on the bus.
On the bus, especially.
On a subway? That's crazy talk.
Yeah. Now, all of that said, I wish I could say that everything went well for them, and this is the angry part. Publicly, the two became heroes of the Soviet Union, but not for surviving what many consider to be the Soviet Apollo 13. Because officially, there was nothing to survive, and the mission had gone off perfectly without a hitch, and nothing had gone wrong at all.
Yes.
Including a flawless execution of the Soviet Union's first spacecraft water landing, which was totally planned and worked great.
It's been proven.
Good job all around, team. That's gotta be the weirdest thing of, like, if you're just the intern at OKB-1, you know that a rocket has fucked up because they give you an Order of Lenin. I just make the coffee. It's like, yeah, and you did a great job because nothing went wrong.
Just slamming the pin into your chest with no backer.
That's gonna be the most hardest, like, most aggressive handshake ever of, like, here's your hero of the Soviet Union.
And there's just going to be a gas check outside of your house for the rest of your life with two guys staring at you.
They give you the thumbs. They have to salute you because you're a hero of the Soviet Union, and then they do the little, like, finger gun to the temple thing.
Just making finger guns at you.
Behind closed doors, however, both men were blamed for the disaster, including the malfunction of the Igla autopilot that had kicked off the whole thing. That was their fault somehow. If they had just been competent and smart enough to manually dock with the station, which was something they had deliberately not been trained to do and had been told not to try, maybe they could have gotten out of this mess. Unfortunately, they were just too stupid.
Guys, did you fuck with it? Why didn't you fuck with it? You should have.
Like, there is no way they get out of this okay, and neither man would fly another mission again. That's it. They're gone. Both of them spent 2 days in space and then nearly died.
They spent 2 days doing the equivalent of, hey, can you let us in, please? Just knocking on the door, no one's there.
I think it is Zudov's gravestone that has something along the lines of, like, his 2-day mission in space became very, very eventful very quickly.
Yeah, I would say. Understatement of the century, perhaps.
Yeah. Man, one thing I need to look up now is I need to look up if on the return of Apollo 13, they still made them do the 2 weeks of quarantine. I know they didn't get to the moon, but, like, part of me thinks NASA would just be like, oh my God, thank God, like, you guys made it all the way back. That is so amazing. Get in the RV.
Ugh.
Don't want anyone catching the flu now.
Yeah, what if the oxygen explodes in their lungs? We don't know if it's contagious.
This man inhaled oxygen. He's going in the decompression dome.
Do you know that 100% of people who consume oxygen die?
That's crazy.
Not to mention the Apollo's full of 100% oxygen. We need to get this man some nitrogen, stat. Running at the crew of Apollo 13 with a cask of liquid nitrogen.
He has oxygen delirium. Stop him.
And that, everyone, is the story of Soyuz-23. How are we all feeling?
You know, it's good to have a nice one like this.
What a nice, uplifting story.
They didn't die.
Well, they have since died, unfortunately.
And we can't say that it wasn't because of the lake.
Or the oxygen.
It was like 2 years ago that Zudov died. It was recently.
Yeah.
2024, yeah. He was 82.
Dang. I mean, that's certainly, like...
Sorry, everyone.
I was about to say that's up there for a cosmonaut, like they're a kind of dog breed or something. I'm just like, well, like cosmonauts normally die around, like, cosmonauts all develop hip problems and die at 50.
Taking my cosmonaut to the vet.
Oh, no. Think of Star City, buddy.
Sending him to the great Star City in the sky.
My cosmonaut's not using his litter tray anymore. What's wrong?
Yeah, oh.
He started biting strangers. That's why his teeth are broken.
Oh no, he's in the Duma now, and his politics are ass.
I mean, he's still alive, to be fair. So
yeah, Valentina Tereshkova's still going, and she's still going long enough to be a absolutely horrible person.
Yeah, that's a real shame. It's like Kerbal Space Program has got some really bad legacies when you think about it. They got a Werner von Braun, they got a Valentina, and there's like. I sometimes wonder if I should ask Felipe, like, do you have any regrets about having those two characters? Like,
but yeah, that has been an episode. That has been a discussion on two guys, you know, having a fun time at the beach. Matt, thank you so much for coming on this episode. Is there any place where people can find your work?
Oh, don't waste your time. It's not worth it. Yeah, you could go on YouTube and type in Matt Lowne. I used to make a lot of space news content, not so much these days. Mostly Kerbal Space Program. I keep meaning to try other things, like everyone always writes comments, they play this, that, and I keep meaning to explore those things, but for now it's mostly KSP. So you can type that in on the YouTubes.
Kitten Space Agency's totally playable.
I have played Kitten Space Agency, played.
Oh, and it is. I'm very excited for where that one will go.
That's pretty much my stance. So, like, it's not really. And people say, "Oh, it's a game now because XYZ has got an editor." I'm like, yeah, but they're still working on it. You know, like the guys who are making it are not going to have any contention with me saying it's not a game yet. You know, it's still a work in progress.
Like you want to compare it. Go back a couple hundred versions of KSP and see how much fun that was.
Yeah, the water wasn't real. It was solid. So would have been great for Soyuz-23.
Yeah. At some point, we'll do an episode on like the story of KSP2 and kind of how that all went down, because I think Rocketworks was in the running for KSP2.
It was.
Way back
I could offer lots. I'm happy to come back for KSP2.
Oh, absolutely, if you want to. But yeah, until that time, and until next episode, listener, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Thank you for joining us on the story of Soyuz-23. Go check out Matt's work. It will be linked down below in the description. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Adios. Have a nice day.
Thank you to everyone who have signed up to support the show. And a big shout out to all of our top tier patrons. Our cyborg cats are Alex K, Asha Rin, Austin C, Boss, Katiga Reptile, Charlie, Comrade Sleepy Bro, Daniel F, Graham E, Jesselyn T, Jorg of Akkad 2, Joss, Hema, Lane of the Wired, Matt, Mobius Striptease, Murray Motorsports, Mysterious Stranger, Oil Drum, Pat, Paul C, Rare Scrundle Sphinx 3rd Edition, Sirab Sin, Skylab Bricks, Source Force, Space Cam, Space Lion, Spectre Cohen, Tortilla Baron, Vivek D, What's the character limit for Patreon name anyway? Wingsmith will trade her entire soul for a set of lightly used billet titanium Soviet Moon rover wheels. Our space dogs are a Union Thug, A. Blinkan, Agent Carter, Alex S., Alexander the OK, Alice N., Alan N., An American Robin, Angie, Angry Old Man Yada Yada, Angry Scooter, Anthony C., Argent Blue, Arlen S., Atomic Hobbit, Autofox, Avocado Assassin, Baron M., Bat Bay, Ben L., Beneath the Skin, By Barbarian, Big Meg, Binary Badger, Blubulus Blix, Beamy, Bod Bodie, Boomzilla, Boring Brian, Boss Bear, Booge, C. Cantaloupe Was Taken, Celeb Gill, Chainsaw Snuggling, Charles H., Charlotte M., Chris K., Christian K., Play M., Cole C., Captain Lag, Cynical Scribble, Daddy Bongo, Darth Baby, David L., DeSmiley, Dom K., Drain Damage, Dr. Shockmaster, Duke of New York, Hank, Aaron, Eric J., FBH, Flatbread Shrimp, For the Love of God, Someone Just Kill Him Already, Fractal Moonlight, Furious Luddite, Garrett B., George B., GLaDOS V42, Grant K., Griffin, former snow shoveler of Burger King, Heiko S., Howl's Moving Pictures by Rush, Human, Post-Fuel Soup, I Hope You Have a Good Day, Ian R., Iggy Naranis, JMM, James A., James C., James T., Jamie K., Yarrow Breadmaker, Jerry M., Jedediah D., Jonah Bart, John C., John E., John Boy B., Johnny Terrors, Jonathan G., Jonathan W., Jonathan Oa, Just Morse, Kate B., Kate D., Kevin F., Corbin the Dog, Cruzzy, Lenswipe, Liliana, Lorgat, Luke O., Lux the Astro, LX Inns, PC, Majestic Affect, Man Who Is Average, Mar, Marigold Muskrat, Marto, Matthew B., Maxwell B., Metgirl Alley, Michael, Mish, Mr. Dr. John, Mitch P., Moomin Instrumentality Project, Narrow Ebb, Nelly W., New Name, Nicholas S., Nick S., Nolan O., Norman W., Northeast Driver, NSFW, NSA, Outlook Cov, Panda, Pat S., Patron, P., Poopbutt, Randall, Ray H., RBK, Rayco B., Riley, Robert G., Sailor of Fortune, Scott K., Sean F., Sean H., Sensual Kazoo, Septic Tanky, Sean P., Shetty Hangst, Shooting Korolev with the KGB Hemorrhoid Gun, Silly Vixen, Skyhawk, Something, Sparks, Spirit of Thunder, Starborn in the Sky, Stronahone sells seashells by the seashore, Swanee, The Suspiciously Woman-Shaped Pharmacist, The Vest Sean, Tim P., Toasty Ken, Crashed, Virash T., Brisk, William O., William P., Winston P., Vouter S., Zachary J.B., Zap, Zemo, Zim, Zombie Dwarf, and Lebedev Yevgeny. Albert Count 241. Thank you for listening to another episode of Failure to Launch. If you want to follow us, we are Failure to Launch on Blue Sky and FT Launch Pod on Instagram. We also post our episodes with visual aids at Failure to Launch Podcast on YouTube. FTL intro and outro themes were provided by DJ Danarchy.